Our first talk of the night is Nysa Bhat and Hannah Bajaj, Beyond Hormones, Finding Balance Through Holistic Care. Nysa Bhat is from Palo Alto, California, and is pursuing a double major in cellular and molecular biology and computer science on the pre-medical track. She is actively involved in research at Tulane, working in the Kolls Lab to develop a vaccine aimed at protecting against pneumonia. She also works at the University Medical Center as a clinical assistant on trauma research, contributing to one of the largest Department of Defense funded clinical trials. Nysa is the president of the Tulane chapter of the American Lung Cancer Screening Initiative, where she leads outreach efforts to raise awareness about lung health and early detection. Hannah Bajaj is a junior at Tulane University and is double majoring in neuroscience and computer science and the pre-medical track. She's the co-founder, At the Tulane's Brain Institute, Hannah researches neural reprogramming for ALS to restore motor function in affected neurons, aiming to unlock new treatment avenues for this debilitating disease. With a keen interest in maternal health, she also leads clinical research studying heart rate variability in pregnant mothers as a biomarker for pre-eclampsia and preterm birth, leveraging technologies to analyze patient health data. Passionate about healthcare and innovation, Hannah is dedicated to integrating technology with patient-centered medical solutions to transform healthcare delivery. Please help me welcome Hannah and Nysa.
At just 6 years old, I was diagnosed with Hashimoto's thyroiditis, an autoimmune condition affecting my thyroid function. The doctors had said that it was genetic. Both sides of my family carried the predisposition, and I had just caught the short straw. At 10, I was always exhausted, consistently battling congestion and struggling to get through my day. By 13, I hit puberty and my body was completely out of sync. My menstrual cycles were irregular, unpredictable, sometimes skipping months and other times being dragged on for several weeks. I didn't quite understand what was happening in my body, but I knew something wasn't right. At 14, the doctors recommended birth control. It'll stabilize your cycles, they said. It'll make things easier. But I wasn't ready for that. And how could I be? No one had even explained to me what was happening inside of my body, why my hormones were so out of balance, why I was feeling this way, or what my options were. Instead, the only solution that I was given was a pill to cover up my symptoms.
When I was 13, I started developing acne like any other teenager. However, the breakouts weren't at the typical spots on my cheeks and my forehead. It was more so concentrated on my upper mouth area and my chin. Then I noticed something else. Dark, thick hair growing on my chin and my neck. Not peach fuzz, but coarse-rooted thick hair. I was confused. Was this normal? Was this supposed to be happening? I consulted with my pediatrician, but they rushed it off. It's probably a factor of puberty, they said. But the hair kept coming back, and every topical cream that was prescribed, nothing seemed to work. And then suddenly, my period stopped for 3 months, only to come back for an entire month straight. I was anemic. Finally, after seeing physicians after physicians, OBGYNs and endocrinologists, a hormone panel was done, and everything seemed normal except for one thing. My testosterone levels were unusually high. The solution I was given? Birth control. No discussion of why this was happening, no conversations about lifestyle, diet, or underlying causes. Just a pill to suppress the symptoms. Hannah and I met in college and we immediately bonded over this shared experience, not just because of the health struggles, but the realization that the only answer we were ever given was a pill. And that's when we started to question, why does healthcare operate this way?
There's a reason why our doctors have defaulted to birth control. Most of modern medicine is based on research done on men. Even today, most medical studies fail to account for how female hormones fluctuate throughout the month.
Women's bodies work differently. Hormones fluctuate on the daily, including things as your immune responses, metabolism, energy levels. And we have a system that does not accommodate that, but rather blankets the problem with a temporary fix. Birth control is prescribed like a universal band-aid, a one-size-fits-all approach.
Despite women being the majority in the United States since 1950, they have long been considered a minority when it comes to medical research. Throughout history, we've seen consistent patterns of doctors viewing women's bodies as atypical and men's bodies as the norm. This gender bias has deeply influenced clinical research, leading to detrimental oversights when it comes to women's health. In 1977, the FDA recommended that women of childbearing age be excluded from Phase 1 and Phase 2 clinical trials, citing concerns that hormonal fluctuations would complicate results and increase costs. As a result, a lot of these medications were not properly tested on women's bodies, leading to treatments that were often less effective or even harmful.
And it wasn't until 1993 that Congress passed the NIH Revitalization Act, which mandated the inclusion of women in NIH-funded trials. Yet, even today, women still remain underrepresented in clinical trial research. Harvard Medical School had published a review paper in which they looked at 1,400 clinical trials with over 300,000 patients and saw that women made up only 41% of participants. In cardiovascular research, where heart disease is the leading cause of death amongst women, women make up of only 38% of participants in cardiovascular trials. And the most striking disparity is that in thyroid cancer, a condition that impacts women 3 times more often than men, women make up of only 27% of participants in thyroid cancer trials.
And this isn't just an individual issue, it's a systemic one.
We spend more money on healthcare than any other country, and yet women's health conditions remain understudied, misdiagnosed, and mistreated. Here in Louisiana, we've seen some of the worst disparities when it comes to maternal and reproductive health within the United States.
And when medicine fails to research women's bodies properly, it fails to treat them properly as well. Instead of investigating root causes, the approach is often symptom management, often medications that are not designed for us.
However, Western medicine excels in acute care. If you break a bone, you don't just necessarily treat it with food. But when it comes to chronic conditions, especially those linked to hormonal imbalances, it often fails to ask the right questions.
What is causing the imbalance in the first place? How can lifestyle, diet, and stress contribute to it? Can we prevent instead of just treating?
And this is where Ayurvedic holistic health comes in. Ayurveda is one of the world's oldest medical systems, dating back to over 3,000 years ago from India. Unlike Western medicine, it doesn't separate the symptom from the lifestyle. It treats the body as a whole. So rather than just masking the issues, it seeks to identify that root cause.
You've probably encountered Ayurveda without even realizing it. Take yoga and meditation, for example. Both are ancient Ayurvedic practices designed to balance the body and mind. Even things like turmeric lattes and gut health trends stem from Ayurvedic principles which focus on digestion and inflammation. Ayurveda has influenced modern wellness in more ways than we often recognize, but its significance goes beyond just trendy practices. It's about creating real, lasting change in how we think and care for our bodies.
For example, PCOS
and Hashimoto's are both conditions linked to inflammation. For me, I had discovered that dairy was a trigger for my condition. Eradicating it from my diet, along with making those small lifestyle changes, dramatically influenced my symptoms. My energy had returned, my hormones had stabilized, and I avoided that birth control that was initially recommended.
I used to feel constantly fatigued, as refined sugars would spike my insulin and testosterone levels, causing huge dips in energy for me. For me, it was all about balancing blood sugar. Foods high in refined sugars and trans fats can worsen insulin resistance, a key factor in PCOS, while having anti-inflammatory diets can help in improving hormonal imbalance. So for me, I had to swap out processed foods and meats for fresh produce and started incorporating omega-3 fats into my meals. By making these changes, I saw significant improvements. My testosterone levels had stabilized, my menstrual cycle was balanced, and I avoided the need to go on birth control as initially prescribed.
We've all heard the saying, you are what you eat, but most individuals fail to connect this with hormonal health. Here's the reality. Our hormones react with what we put inside of our bodies.
Cortisol, our stress hormone, spikes when we consume too much processed sugar and caffeine. Estrogen dominance, linked to conditions such as endometriosis and PCOS, is often worsened by endocrine disruptors and processed foods. Even things like turmeric and flax seeds are shown to help in regulating estrogen levels and reducing inflammation.
Yet, in the United States, our diet consists of ultra-processed, hormone-disruptive food. Rather than focusing on prevention, we wait for the disease to hit, and then we throw medications at it.
We are both aspiring physicians. We recognize the importance of scientific advancements, surgical interventions, and pharmaceuticals. But we also believe that medicine should do more than just treat. It should prevent.
Right now, our healthcare system is dominated by treatment-based care because that's what makes the money. The food industry and pharma go hand in hand with one another. One creates the problem and the other sells the solution.
And this isn't about rejecting medicine. It's about integrating what works. Western medicine saves lives. Holistic health prevents disease. You don't have to choose one or the other.
Our stories and the stories of women throughout the world reflect the need of a paradigm shift in healthcare. Your body is not a machine with isolated body parts. Rather, it's an interconnected experience that deserves a holistic approach.
So ask questions and look beyond quick and easy fixes. Birth control may be a valuable option, but it should not be the only option.
Therefore, start small. Pay attention to how food affects your body.
Notice how your hormones fluctuate.
And advocate for yourself at the doctor's office.
Because ultimately, your health is not just about pills and procedures. It's about understanding your body, listening to it, working with it, not against it.
This is what holistic reproductive health looks like.
And it starts with you. Thank you.